What's good, everybody? You know what time it is, man. You know who I am. I'm GG, man. You tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. It's the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, with no chasers, man. Word. First thing I want to do is give a shout out to all the haters out there. And I know it's a lot of haters out there that might watch the video later or who are watching it right now. What's good with y'all, man? As a matter of fact, fuck you niggas. If you hating. I'm just putting it straight out there like that. If it's fuck me, it's fuck you. Word to the mother. But if you haven't done so already, man, make sure you hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell notification button so you can stay abreast of what's cracking here on the Green Gorilla channel. Word. And also, as I always do, I want to give a shout out to all the members of the Green Gorilla channel, the people who help support it and help keep it going, man. So let me take care of that process. Shout out to Gold Professor, Brotherly Love, Lee Ways, Night Raven, DF, Aaron Peters, Travis, Zanko, Barnolis, J. Cleveland Green, hiphop.catv, Dar, Lord Hamal, Michael Ross, Vincent Lindsay, and Michael Pierce. Big up to y'all, man. Appreciate the support. Big up to Beautiful Trauma, Quiz the Poet, Black Quizzard 80OS, Jaztec, Shadow Observer, Sugar T, Artisan MC, Big Sid, Nasiana, Kyle J. Sura, and Kareem. Big up. Big up to Troy Warren, Black's Word, Jeff R., Mrs. KP Bailey, Cutting Up with the Jones, Ricky Dawson, Alan Wiley, The Face, Mantis on Break, Electrician 480, and Life of Commerce. Big up. Big up to Apex Prowler, Julius Ferguson, True 7360, Herbert Lewis, D. Scott, Marvin Evans, A. Wilson's Ghost, Rogan Son, L. Fry, Timothy Blewett, and Jeffrey Speed. Big up. Big up to Marvin Battle Jr., Mark Holt, John J., The IDP Expressions, Afro Troop TV, Adam, BGS Ibmore, Ignatz Mouse, Brian Peaks, Papa Didas, and Scott Haywood. Big up. Big up to Black Uru Strikes, Dr. Tree, Leroy Honeycutt, Broken Blade, Super Tech, 77 Base X, Brian McMurray, Karen S., Anthony Davis, Donnell 360, and Seven Coast Dojo. Big up. Big up to Charles Rogers, Rick Ross, Sandra Jean, Charles Gilmore, Patricia Colley, Greg, Barry Little, Mr. Valentino, Jason Hales, Black Men Being Brutally Honest, and Cameron 87. Big up. Big up to Doc LaRock, Mark Swift, Odd Collar, Donald Watts, Coach Hotep, Old Soul Chief, Mr. Blue Collar, I'm Just Jules, TD Hip Hop Media, Drew Main, and Mr. Heat. Big up. Big up to Sir Anthony, MLR, Universal 178, Rasheed Barnes, Aaron Smith, DH, and Beware the Revelator. Big up. On the Patreon side, big up to Rock One, Judah Orenda, Albert C., Dr. Ben Vincent, Charles Fontentot, I Am the Light of My Father, Waffle Weave, Lamont Latimer, William Joyner, Tyrone Hampton, Darnell Smith, Excalibur, Jason Warren, Anu 219, Presuer Prisoner, Taz, Dragon 59, Jay Bailey, Mr. Michi, and Asangwa. Big up to all y'all. And I can't forget my brother, Forrest Windu. I can't forget the brother David Carroll, and I can't forget the brother Kevin Samuels. Big up to all of y'all, man. Also, I want to take some time out to support the people, man, who hit me up on the Cash App, man. Shout out to Joseph Monroe, Andre Ganiska. Big up to ML Law. And an extra special big up to Audrey Harris. Big up to him, man. Big up to Shabazz, Jamal Wilson, F. Holiday, Sunkiss Spiritual, Donovan Wood, Corbett Goodwin, Quentin Herbert, and David Burt, Art of Ivmore, Mrs. K.P. Bailey, Dar, Melvin Penn, Darren, and many, many more, man. But big up to all y'all. Thank you so much for supporting the Green Gorilla channel and helping me to keep this thing going. Because, we got some haters out here. They out here. But big up to the supporters, man, and the people who support the Green Gorilla channel. I really appreciate it. You don't have to listen to anything I have to say. We live in a country where you can just hit the button and go to another stream or go to another video. You don't have to be here with me. You can be anywhere you want to be. So big up to y'all, man. Appreciate that. Straight up. And if you're if you not worried, but if you're interested in supporting the Green Gorilla channel on an ongoing basis, here's how you do it, man. And I'll be right back with the show. All right, man, we back. You know who I am. I'm GG. You tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, with no chaser. And I feel like, I live in a country where I can say what I want to say. I can do what I want to do. If you don't like it, you know what you can do? You can eat a dick. Real talk. And matter of fact, if you don't like what the fuck I got to say, come holler at me about it. I live in Huntsville, Texas, off Lake Road. Holler at me. Pull up on me. Fuck all the talking and shit. Holler at me. Come get with me. That's all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And in that spirit, I'm bringing up the bros of Omega Sci-Fi. What's up with you, dog?
What's going on, team?
What's up with you, team? And look, let me tell you something. When niggas got beef in the frat, what happened?
We go to the greens.
We go to the greens, man. We take it to the physical, and we get it out. We get it out the system. Ain't no chit chatting and talking and back and forward and tongue lashing and arguing back and forth and all that bullshit. We don't do that. No, we don't do that, bro. So if a motherfucker got beef, bring it. Fuck all the internet shit. Bring it. You know what I'm saying? That's how we get down. And right now, there's a clave about to go down. You know what I'm saying? Sure. You know what I'm saying? And I'm pretty sure it's going to be some beefing out there.
Yes.
You feel me? But you know how we handle it.
But nothing fixes beef like a ripped t-shirt and grass stains.
Man. But nowadays, some bros, man, like it was a clave in the loo, man. Some bros pulled out guns, man. You know what I'm saying? It just fucked up as it may be. You know what I'm saying? It's just this new age of Negroes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But man, you back in the U.S., man. So tell me some of the things you've been experiencing that's been a little bit different between our culture and what's going on in the UAE.
Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that yoga pants is a thing now, so, you know what I'm saying? It's formal wear. It's everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Yoga pants, man. And, you know what I'm saying? Y'all got more diabetes than I could shake a stick at. Like I told you, I just bought a box of cereal. Man, okay, I see some cereal that's called family size, but y'all got mega size. Man, so I just bought a box of Fruit Loops with marshmallows in them, man, which we don't have over there. And then the other day, fam, I went to Papa John's, man. Your medium pizza is our large.
That's to be expected, man. You know how Americans are. We're gluttonous, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, we want to supersize everything. You know what I'm saying? That's why we overweight, in mass. You know how it is, bro. We have our indulgences.
He said, you want the stuffed crust? I said, not what with the cheese. He said, yeah, but we also got stuffed crust with pepperoni. I was like, yo.
And you ain't been here in 10 years. So, I mean, it's got to be a culture shock,
Yeah, man.
You know, it's got to be a culture
It
shock.
is, man. But and that's me being in a slow South, man. I can only imagine what'll happen when I hit up New York City.
Right, right. But New York City, man, is really out. It's cosmopolitan, man. So it's gonna be a lot of different characters rolling around in that spot. But you already know what it is, bruh.
Yeah,
You
man.
know, you already know what it is and where it's at. In the heads of the people that live there, both white, black, and whatever else.
Yeah.
A lot of stratification and a lot of politics, plantation politics taking
Yeah.
place in New York City.
Facts. You know what I'm saying?
Which, which,
Hands
which, by the way, is the topic
down.
of the day's stream. And it's a topic developed by you, and you requested to do the series with me, okay? Because you wanted to address some issues that you had with some of the things that were being said within the confines of YouTube. And so kind of explain, why it is that, you're wanting to do this overall, and then, like where we left off from the last time, and then take us up to today and
Man,
your subject of plantation politics.
yeah, man. The whole point, man, is to break the narrative of that we were lazy, shiftless, do nothings, and this is why black men or black people collectively are what they are today. Because a lot of people haven't really studied our history. They don't understand what animated the state and how our state was formed, right? Or how capitalism, in general, got kickstarted and how it was formed. And so so by giving people that actual history, you'd be able to, this is not sand dogs feelings, right? These are things that actually happened. This is stuff that went down. And so you'll get to see the things that shape our society and ultimately the type of culture or people, that we would become. And since, and pretty much, since the founding of America, how we discussed with Bacon's Rebellion, you know, black people have been trying to find ways in order to get on equal footing. And so when we last left, we talked about the Revolutionary War and how, you would have, slaves, who would side with, slaves and freed black men who would side with either the British loyalists, right, who wore their T-shirts, all slaves will be freed, and then eventually the patriots, uh, who in the beginning, really didn't want much to do with black soldiers because of what you would have to promise them. After Dunbar's declaration, from the or Dunmore's proclamation, I'm sorry, from the side of the British, that's when the Patriots, decided to let black people into their ranks. And many of us went into their ranks, for the sake of, or for the hopes, rather, of having freedom on the other end. And the conclusion that you and I left with at the end of that discussion was, it's, you're kind of seeing how many things in our modern culture have taken shape. So when you see African Americans arguing about, left versus right, blue versus red, LGBTQ versus straight, it appears in a way that we've always been looking for ways to escape blackness through other labels, right? So,
Uh, uh,
what you say, team?
I say we trying to escape what?
We're trying to escape blackness through other labels.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I think you hit on something important right there, man. How's it possible though to escape blackness, man?
Well, because again, because right now at this point in America, you're beginning to establish black, as the underclass. So if I could identify as something else, if I could identify as a child of a free woman, or a free woman or a white female, or through my father, or if I could, so if I could take on whatever other labels, and like I said, and you'll hear me mention this in this discussion today. So if I could take on any other label, right, that allows me to kind of circumvent or work my way around being black to get out of that circumstance of perpetual servitude or being a permanent underclass. And so, so in many people's legal fights, against this system, you're going to see it where people try to, in a sense, use these other labels to get out of their circumstance. So, again, when you go to the Revolutionary War, right? So the guys are saying, as a British, I'm being set free as a British loyalist, right? I'm not being set free as a black man, with the ideas of a free black state or equal footing, or necessarily on equal footing with everyone else, right? And
but let me stop you right here, man.
Yeah.
You saying a lot of deep shit though, and my question to you is, I know who you are, okay? I know to some degree what credentials you hold, and I know your level of education, and I know your level of ascendance within the confines of the U.S. military. But like, let the people know why is it that you feel like you have the capacity to provide the information that you're providing personally?
Well, one, I come from a Pan Africanist family, so I was raised with this history. Also, too, my military career, and then also my work in the corporate world has allowed me to has given me the opportunity, to sit within the inner workings of government, at least in terms of foreign policy as it relates to trade and America's objectives abroad, in terms of, like I said, of trade and commerce, and then also participating in the business world between the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. So for me, this is where I get my particular insights from. So even aside, from the military, like, my career for the most part is outside of the military, has been in transportation. So all modes of transportation and distribution, and then onwards to general trading in FMCG, which is fast moving goods and cargo. So Sam Dog, so when you go to, let's say, Costco's or whatever, Sam Dog is the guy that puts everything in those shelves. Or when you go to your drugstore, I'm the guy that puts the stuff in the shelves. Or when you're at a duty free in the airport, I will be the guy that puts your liquor and your watches and your luxury items and that kind of stuff, in the airport. So, I've had the chance, for lack of a better term, to experience both micro, but what you and I had in our private conversations is the macro of everything, the macro of it all. And so I think that in Black America, where we kind of get into these fights about red versus blue, and when I came to the sphere, and I said a lot of people, what many of us are arguing ultimately is internal locus of self-control versus external of locus of self-control, and both of them have their valid points, but I don't think that many of us really understand the macro. So I get it, because I'm one of those people, and even our own movements, whether it be the UNIA or the Nation of Islam, preach personal responsibility and not to take handouts. But aside from that, you have a macro player, which is the state, which pulls the puppet strings that decides a lot of these outcomes or has created these particular circumstances. So I think that's kind of where I believe, I have a special insight to talk about some of these things.
Oh, but systems of oppression don't really exist. It's just you niggas lazy and you don't want shit out of life. And, that's the reason why black folks are where they are. It's just, you got a bunch of good for nothing, shucking, jiving, chiseling Negroes who don't want to lift themselves up by their bootstraps. All they got to do is make an attempt and try, And not to say that some people won't be successful, but the vast majority of people that aren't successful, I'm just playing devil's advocate. Right? Yeah. Not everybody who makes an attempt is going to succeed, but you will never succeed if you don't make the attempt That's what, you know, the argument is. You know, it's basically, you know, Negroes just don't have the fortitude. They don't have the insight. They don't have the, you know, the stick to itness. They don't have the moral turpitude. The, you know, the right kind of, you know, virtuous disposition. That's why we are where we are. You know, it's and you know, it's your job to just look out for you. Fuck the macro. Just fuck with the micro. Even though, you know, in my viewpoint, like, without playing devil's advocate, I don't believe that there's any black person in the United States, even billionaires, that like have a macro impact on the economy, bruh. That's just the facts, man. Yeah. Like, tell me one Negro who has a macro impact on the U.S. economy, man. Which one, man? I don't give a fuck like how much money you think you got or how much insight you think you got. What the fuck can you do to impact an entire fucking community of persons, bro? Correct. What can you do? Yeah. Now, I mean, you know, a lot of cats talk about, you know, I'm bossing up. I got the bag, and you know, I'm this and that. I got millions and all this kind of shit. But what control do you really have over the economy?
None.
I'm just saying. I mean, you're an economics major. Yeah. Or at one point, you know, you dealt with economics at a level of, you know, study. Which Negro? I'm asking. Well, I mean, you know, because we got new black billionaires. Do we not?
Yes.
What impact are they having on the economy to impact or affect the lives of millions, some 40 million Negroes? I ain't talking about 5 or 10 Negroes. I'm not talking about 3 or 4 Negroes. I'm not talking about the 20 or 30 Negroes that they've hired. Right? I'm talking about the economy, bruh. And who's able to participate in it most robustly, and those who are not.
Yeah. But again, that's what I'm trying to say. So when you get back to the United States of America and you look at it on the macro level, right? So first off, you know, what does the United States preach heavily as a value, right? Again, the power of the individual, right? And so when you look at how a lot of black wealth is created, right? It's created from outside sources, you know, of the black community in and of itself, which is why the impact of that wealth that's gained may not mean much, but symbolism to the greater Black America, right? And so it's like I said. So a lot of what's been, or some of what's been achieved, is all individual success, and that is within the micro itself. So if Sandog goes on to become a movie star, you know what I'm saying, you know, or an entertainer, right? And so at the end of the day, you know, again, it is influential, because what America does export most, like I said, is its culture, and that is pretty powerful. But for the most part, that's not something that we control. So I'm not gonna undervalue, you know, becoming a billionaire in the sense of, you know, getting your hands on America's biggest export is the culture. But at the end of the day, to your point, we're not captains of industry in regards to the hard power, right? Your manufacturing base, your military industrial complex, and those are the guys that really hold a lot of the power.
So let's get to the specifics, man. Talk about the plantation, man. Okay, because we don't want to have them waiting too long for you to get into the nitty gritty about this, man. So let's get to this plantation shit, and how plantation politics extends to the present. Because we act like we overcame the plantation.
Yeah, and that's the crazy part, because, you know, it's funny, and I'm going to get into it, and because, you know, a lot of people, I would encourage you to get into foreign policy because, I remember BGS saying a while ago that he doesn't like domestic politics because a lot of people get too emotional. If you really want to learn public administration and policy, it would behoove you to learn foreign policy because, again, it gives you won't have the emotional attachment that you have to domestic politics, right? You could you really could learn a lot about it. So now, but getting back into it. So previously, we're talking about things that shape our culture as a people, as the plantation. And honestly, man, this is something that we never got over. This is very present in our culture, and so when you get people, or especially guys from my side of the fence, from the conservative world, who says that that's either a long time ago and it has no impact on what Black people are today, and then they'll bring up things like, well, during Reconstruction, right? Again, when when the North pretty much kept the foot of white supremacy off your neck for that short amount of time. So they're bringing up figures from Reconstruction where Black people were prospering, but not necessarily communicating what happened when the North pulled their troops, and then people began to take that prosperity away. So now when you get into like how we talk about, you're getting into, this is after the Revolutionary War, and so many states now begin to enact their slave codes, right? And so in the slave codes, again, you're denied family, as you heard me mention before, in terms of the factors of production, right? You're denied business and trade. You don't have the right to bear arms. As a matter of fact, if you're caught with the weapon, you'll be subject to 39 lashes. And then you don't have freedom of assembly, right? And so now when you look at in today's terms, if there's 10 of us hanging out on the block, and the cop car roll up, what is he going to do, right? Bonk, hey guys, break it up and go home. So when you look at from the slave codes and then to the Black codes, right? Again, 10 of us are chilling on the street. Hey boy, you got a job? Nope. And then right before you know it, you're in jail and you're sharecropping, right? When you were just free, to allegedly free 2 days ago, minding your own business. So a lot of these things haven't left us. And so when you look at how we were treated, this is where Black people have generated their cultural ideas and their responses, to things in our environment, right? And so now with the slave codes, there's no accountability for abuse, right? The slave, I could choke a slave out, I could kill him, I could do all these things. And fast forward to police brutality, right? Where you would have a cop, I think was it Orlando Castile, where he said, hey, I have a weapon. I'm not reaching for the weapon. I'm not reaching for it, right? And the cop freaks out and shoots the man in cold blood and his family, and little to nothing happens to him, right? And so this is what African Americans are, like I said, are responding to, right? You don't have the right. You don't even have the right to engage in trade or business or commerce, right? We can't own patents. God knows what we invented, but but you can't own patents, and you can't benefit. You can't benefit off of the wealth generated, by your hard work. And then you would have where you would have something like Bacon's Rebellion, when Black people attempted the same thing, to get off of slave plantations and everything else. Many of them were tortured and then ultimately put to death. So that's why now, like for example, when you see something like January 6th, and when you look at the Black response to it, and Black people will say, well, if that was us, right? If that was us, we wouldn't be able to do this and we wouldn't be able to do that. Whereas on the other side of the fence, if they're dissatisfied with something, right, they're like, hey, this ain't working for me. Damn your laws, right? I'm going to break whatever law there is until something more suitable is passed in my favor or what I believe. But again, for us, based upon the circumstances that we're in, we are, despite popular belief, we're law-abiding citizens to a fault.
Hold on, you wait a minute. You're saying, I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yes.
You're saying that we follow the laws to the letter for the most part. I mean, there's an underclass, so to speak, the so-called Pookies and Ray Rays and the Shaniquas and the Queens who engage in illicit activity. But for the most part, Black folks are law-abiding to a fault. Why shouldn't we follow these laws? I mean, they exist to keep the order, right?
Yeah, yeah, but at the end of the day, right? If these laws are unfair and they don't benefit you, right? So, for example, so when you look at the Ray Rays and the Pookies, right? They're doing they're only doing for the most part of what we want to call that. They're only doing what they were programmed to do. So, for example, because slavery, when you have what was called the peculiar institution, right? And so, what happens under the peculiar institution, right? You maintain. So one of the things I have to preface this with, guys, is that remember slavery was what 246, 247 years, quote unquote, on paper. So if it takes 3 weeks for you to make a habit, I want you to think from 1619 all the way to 1970. The type of habits that we would have in terms of living under these conditions, right? Because remember, the Black Code and Jim Crow only came about to reinforce what had existed before in slavery. So again, it was more or less a loophole in a sense. So now you get to the peculiar institution of slavery, right? And so, what does that peculiar institution want from us, right? It wants to maintain strict discipline and complete submission, right? Inferiority to let you, quote unquote, keep you in your place. It instills fear, right? To take interest in your master's enterprise, right? So there's no self-interest of your own, right? Kind of like what Malcolm X said, right? This is a fine house we got. Yes, sir, this is a fine house, right? The master says we sick, boss, we sick. So again, again, your whole concept of you as a human being, uh, you being able to make your own moves or have your own agency, all of that is completely out of the window, right? And then you're denied education, recreation, enterprise, and then the state wants you to be completely dependent on the institution in which you exist, right? And so,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So the way I look at it is this, man.
yeah,
Okay, so we had this conversation before, okay? But the crux of the conversation is this. We know this state wasn't created for us to prosper in. But you got some people who prosper in it. And, the first thing they do is they start deriding people who aren't prosperous within it. Do you get what I'm saying?
yes,
So the first thing they start doing is talking about people who are less well off than them, as if they've arrived, like they made it. And so now they're gurus and they're going to tell you how you fucked up and what you need to be doing, right? Because they one of the niggas, the good ones, right? The smart ones,
right.
the industrious ones, or whatever the case may be. They're one of them type, right?
yeah,
So now, they can go and talk derisively about those persons who really don't have what they have or haven't arrived at the certain, level of monetary success that they deem themselves. Hold on, wait a minute, man. Who is this angry man scared of me motherfucker, man? Man, get rid of that motherfucker. Or bring your bitch ass up to bring your ass up. Oh, hold on. I want to know what's all this. First of all, if you don't like angry man, why the fuck, what is this bitch made shit that niggas is doing in this space, man, where they are haggling other content creators and shit. Like, if you got a beef with that dude, man, holla at that motherfucker, man. Like, what is this cat ass shit? I'm seeing too much cat pussy made nigga shit in the manosphere. If you want to even call this shit the manosphere. Because it's like the pussy sphere to me. I'm just keeping it 100, man. I left the motherfucking link. What is all this shit? He ain't distracting me, but it's something that I want to speak on because it's too much fucking bullshit. This is high school shit. Why is grown ass men acting like high school niggas, man? What is this shit? I ain't gonna speak on it no further, but goddamn, man, what's wrong with you niggas, man? I mean, just the name alone is some bullshit. If you got beef with that motherfucker, go holler at him. Don't be up in the shit trolling and getting off topic, saying stupid shit, bruh. This is some little boy shit. But, back to the subject at hand, man. What we talking about is token niggas, man. You know what I'm saying? Who basically feel like they can escape blackness and act all, high and mighty and virtue signaling grandstand to people less fortunate than they are, when we know that the system in and of itself has never been predicated upon us being successful. This is what we talking about. Because you always had some black folks that had some shit. But when you look at the way that wealth is distributed in America and in the Western world and in the world in general, for the most part, man, you got a small amount of people who control the vast amount of wealth, man, and the forces of production. This is just the facts. And so what you get is a bunch of people who argue with each other and basically have infighting with each other over crumbs and petty shit. So when he makes a reference to the laws, we know the laws of the United States weren't created for our benefit. In fact, we were slaves. We were property. We were property, okay? And we follow their laws like the laws that they make are universal. Like, we want to really actually not overthrow this system, but we want to bask in it. We love this shit. We love our position in this shit. This is the kind of argument I think that, Sandog is trying to make. We don't want to buck the system. We just want to be included in it. We want more of it. This is why I have a problem with the white feminists, because they say that they've been oppressed and so on and so forth, right? But what's the first thing they make a reference to? Wages. How I'm not making as much money as the average man or the men at the top. They don't say fuck the system. We don't like the system. They just say I want representation within the system. And that's the issue. That's the problem. How you take a group of people, man, who've been so colonized, and to get them to see, fuck these people's laws, man. I mean, you can follow them if you want to, but ultimately, why should you have to? Why should you feel like you should have to follow these people's laws when you were property? And then, we didn't get out of segregation till when? The fucking 60s? We talking about 60 years ago. Now, I mean, it is what it is. But you got a lot of Negroes, man, who think that, they're morally superlative than other Negroes because they got some sort of class status or some shit like that. But you really ain't scratching the surface of where the real money and the power lies. And this is one of the issues that a lot of brothers, man, I don't know, man. It's like, what's the average thing on a black man's mind?
Money, hoes, and clothes.
Money, hoes, clothes, and maybe a car or some shit like that. This is one of the reasons a lot of men in the manosphere are disgruntled. What, these bitches ain't acting right. They ain't acting right. They ain't showing me no love or respect. But think about it. You think George Washington was worried about Martha and shit when he was fighting against the British?
Facts. Like I said, fam, you don't look at. Like I said, again, you're not gonna go topple the Zulu kingdom. You know what I'm saying? Mess up millions of South Asians. 20 million Aztecs. You know what I'm saying? Millions of Native American people in North America, right? And then turn around and be like, baby, what you think, right? Although, like you said, there are guys like that, but more often than not, right? Somebody like Genghis Khan, somebody like Genghis Khan who's dedicated to rape and pillage. That's not how they operate. That's not how they roll.
But that's how we roll, though. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, our manhood is centered around our access to women. I mean, that's at least how we perceive ourselves. Like, the big man is the man who gets the most women.
Yep.
Or who has access to the women. Yeah. It's like cats are looking like, roaches are looking for a crevice to escape a shoe being swatted on them. The first thing they run to is their position in this system.
Yeah.
They don't want to dismantle this system, destroy this system, break this system down. They love the system. They like it. They like this system. I'm going to let this one guy in real quick. What's happening? Who is this? Who am I speaking with, brother?
How you doing, man? My name's Skywalker, man.
Okay, what's cracking with you? How you doing today? Speak to us really quickly, man. Give us a word so we can get back.
Well, I just gotta. I mean, I got some pushback for you, man. It's not necessarily. I'm being respectful. I'm not trying to argue or I'm not trying to fight with you.
It's cool to it's cool to be contrary. Let's get to it. It's okay.
I'll listen to you. You know what I'm saying? I've been watching your show for quite a while now, man. I dig you, but it's just like it's just starting to get redundant to me a little bit, man. With the Victim Olympics that I believe we playing. You know what I mean? With I understand history, I understand slavery and all that. I understand what is the solution, man? I mean, how can we come together, brothers? And I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's what I want to know. You a very intelligent dude, but what is the solution?
Well, I would say this, right? So, for example, like when you talk about, like you get the history, right? So, if you take any finance course, right, you're going to learn about the flow of capital and money, and those variables. When you first take finance, right? Do you know? So we all know.
Can I just? I'm sorry.
No, let him speak, bro, because he's trying to answer your question.
So
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. So in finance, there's one variable that's consistent in most of them and many mathematical formulas, and that's called time, right? So the first thing you're going to learn is the time value of money, right? You're going to learn when annuities mature, right? You know, the timing of call and put options, so on and so forth, right? And so when you look at Black America being cut out of America, being cut out of the ability to generate wealth, right, and all of that other stuff, that's time. So for us, so what happens is, with the situation that we were in, you had good portions of America that was going forward, but we were stuck in place, right? And so what happens is that you cannot, when you want to talk about wealth and the creation of wealth, you cannot ignore the time value of money, right? So what did Martin Luther King say? He said that the Negro lives on an island of poverty amidst the sea of material prosperity. So us being locked out of the system has a lot to do with how we function and where we are now, right? I'll let you make a point, but I wanted to give you the concept of money, right? Because we're talking about like wealth and stuff like that, like a lot of things that will solve our condition. So I'll let you, you can go ahead and talk your point on, but I brought up that because time is significant, especially when it comes when we're talking about money, right? There is no, there is kind of like don't let it go and shoulda, coulda, woulda, because at a time in American history, a slave was worth more than all the slaves collectively were worth more than all the silver and gold in the country. We were actually worth more at a particular time than the land. So the fact that all of this wealth creation is happening and we're locked out of it, right? That for us creates a slew of problems in addition to other cultural things. And so basically what I'm saying is that what we've experienced on the plantation, to include wealth, a lot of that hasn't gone away because what the state did was the state passed policies and laws, and those policies and laws became our culture. So when you talk about the foundations of what we now perceive as Black and everything else comes from the pit of dysfunction that was the plantation. So this is why it can't be
I
ignored.
agree.
Yeah.
I trust me, I agree. Everything you just articulated, I agree completely. Now, yes, I don't have the level of education as you know, Gorilla Green, who I respect, and yourself, sir. I don't. You know what I'm saying? So it's like me. I'm 39 years old. I've been a welder for 24 years, and I'm climbing the ladder, right? And I'm you know I'm a man that grew up without a father. You know the violin story. You know the typical story, right? And when I'm listening, I'm getting empowered by Gorilla Green. You know what I'm saying? With facts, he coming with it every time, dude. Like with history and the politics, man. I agree. I haven't disagreed with nothing this man ever said, but it's like I'm like trying. I want to know like how do a young man or a man like myself establish something? What can I implement that I will have access to, such as resources to actually start building some type of wealth when I didn't have that a mentor or I don't have that education, never been to college. You know what I'm saying? I'm still weary about people. I don't rock with people like that because I'm always looking over my shoulder, and I don't even sell drugs, but you just can't trust our own people out here. Like how you
And that's
gonna
why
say
that's
something to a
what.
young man that's 13 or 14 years old, and I stay in Atlanta, but they got a 40-round clip in their pocket? What you gonna say?
Yeah.
So
But
so look, this is there's several things happening here at one time. Like either we can be pessimistic, which there is a position. It's called Afro pessimism. Go look the shit up. Basically, Afro pessimism says the conditions of coloniality in a white Western culture, they're never going to be eliminated. So I mean, like, how do you
Say
thrive
that
and
one more
survive
time.
within? Huh?
I'm sorry, man. Just
Afro-pessimism.
say. Okay.
There is the position called Afro pessimism, or a racial realist position, namely that you're not going to be able to get out of this individually. I mean, like what your personal situation is not unlike that of many black Americans or even some white Americans. Okay? You were born
Right.
with nothing. Your parents didn't have any assets. You don't
Right.
have any assets. You don't have any wealth to start. You're not kick-started in life. You got to build it yourself. And not to say
Right.
that it can't happen. It can happen. It happens amongst many, black folks where they stick to it and they are able to acquire something for themselves. Now, the question is, what impact does this have over the system as a whole? Is what we're talking about. Like, how do you so there's two ways to approach this. Individually, right? Now you say you 39 years old, right?
Correct.
Just like he said about the time value of money. You're never gonna really actually, unless you start a grade A business and get the popping and be really frugal and have like straight up discipline, you're not going to be able to appreciate money over time the same way somebody who's 19 or 18 can. Because their money is not going to be able to matriculate through interest.
Right.
But a lot of black folks, man, are robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, like the
telling you,
facts
man,
of money, like the facts of money and how to gain wealth are the facts of money and how to gain wealth in this system. So compound interest is the way to get to attain some modicum of success. Now, either you can start a business, find a malallocation in the market, take it, exploit it, and generate a profit. You can do that. But the reality is that most business owners, man, are failures. I'm not saying don't go for it. I'm saying go for it.
I agree.
Go for it.
And that's another point I was going to make pertaining to myself, such as, like I said, I've been welding for 24 years. I done acquired the level of knowledge with welding technology, over these years where I can
Man,
start
you don't
my
know
own
nothing about them
business.
6010s, man. You don't know nothing about them 6010s, them
Oh yeah,
6018s,
bro. Going
bro.
with that stick welding, bro. I know it. You look at you, man. You look at this. You such
Hey, bro, you don't know nothing about that.
dude, man.
You don't know nothing about that MIG or that TIG. You don't know how to push
Look,
that
I'm
puddle,
doing
man.
TIG right now. Look at this man. Yeah. See, I wouldn't know nothing about that, man. You know what I mean? Because of the level you are with your education. You
I'm an
know, so
iron
yeah,
worker,
my hat
bro.
goes off to you with that, man. I appreciate that. But like I said, I just wouldn't know. I don't know where to start. You know what I'm saying? Like I got an idea because I got a homeboy who just started his own business, and he been trying for like the last 8 months. He's still struggling, and I'm like,
Well,
man,
I
I want
tell
to
you,
follow his lead, but I can't just quit my job because I got to feed my family. You know what I'm
what a
saying?
guy
So
like you can do, what a guy like you can do, they got a
Freelance.
plan. They have a plan called from helmets to briefcases. Okay, now you're probably not, I don't know what geographical area you live in. Okay, I
Decatur,
don't know if you're
Georgia.
part. You're in Georgia, so that's a right to work state. I'm assuming that there's not like a large union in your state. Okay, but I would encourage you. You know, I'm pretty sure that the union like that covers the subject or the practice of welding is going to be the iron workers. Okay, find a way
Right.
to talk to that. It's white, but fuck it though. Like
Yeah, I
either
don't got a
either they
problem with them.
yeah. So I mean, go holler at the iron workers and find out about the helmets to briefcases project. Uh,
Hmm.
Learn how to develop a business plan and get into it. Like if you know how to weld, you got a welder. You understand what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure that either you're using the company's welder or you're using
Right.
your own.
Right.
Okay. So, but you got to factor in how much it'll cost for you to get started doing what you know how to do. Like black folks do need to be in the construction business. We
Right.
need to be getting those contracts. We need to, if we can't get the contracts directly, we at least need to be subcontractors. But if you're
I
in that
agree.
practice, go for that, man. You understand what I'm saying? Try to nudge your way in through the existing policies that exist. Is what I'm asking. Not asking you, but suggesting that you do.
Yes, sir.
You
I
you
understand.
understand what I'm saying? So at one point I was basically putting together a program for the helmets, the briefcases program. Because I had the pamphlet and all the information. I got to dig through my paperwork to find it, but I'm pretty sure you can look on the internet and see something similar to it, where they got minority contracts. Try to get that shit, but you got to have a plan in place, and then you
Right.
have to know how to bid on contracts. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
the word. Bidding. I wouldn't even know where to start with that. I
Well,
mean, where do you get it?
I'll tell you this. What I'll tell you is this: wherever you're from, what you need to do is go to a website called SBA.gov, and when you go to SBA.gov, you'll see that SBA.gov they have lectures and networking events, right? And so when you go
Right.
to SBA.gov, there's a lot of resources there and people that they can hook you up with to teach you about government contracting and bidding because that's the world that I come from, right?
Okay.
So yeah, so I like I said, I come from, like I said, I come from that world. So go, it's called SBA.gov, right? And you go there, and then the menu on it has the ability for you to narrow it down and where you're from, and then once you do it, whenever they have their lectures and all of that other kind of stuff, then you could connect with SBA.gov to learn more about government contracting, the minority positions in government contracting, what's allocated, how to bid for it, right? And then you can take your business and then you can get all your NAISCS codes, which are your national classification codes based upon what you do. And so you could bid for both government contracts and NATO contracts, right? And so the systems are similar. A little bit, different here and there, but there's a lot for you to have with that. And so go check it out, man. SBA.gov.
Okay,
All
so
right.
we got to get back on track, but hopefully, like we're offering you a solution to your unique problem. I don't know if it'll actually materialize into anything for you
Oh yeah, I'm
specifically,
grateful, man. I'm
but I
grateful for
mean,
the information
you
I
gotta
got.
use your head. There's nothing wrong with a man trying to improve his condition, even within the confines of the system to some extent. But know that the system at least have the awareness that the system is not working to your benefit. Like you
Right.
haven't actually been able to participate in the policies that actually build wealth generationally for your demographic. These are the facts. Now, we can talk about what we can do with our own agency, but I mean, given what has actually occurred to us in the United States, we ought to be fucking with guns and shit trying to tear this motherfucker down.
I agree.
I mean, those are the facts. Like, I mean, anywhere, man, you got monkeys on television, bro. The Planet of the Apes. They are resisting against their situation. Okay? You got the Hunger Games and shit. Motherfuckers are resisting against their situation. With physical resistance, militaristic rebel resistance. You have a country full of people who basically said, give me liberty or give me death. But and Reinhardt, that's the issue. We already dying, but we dying a slow death. They say, you know, like a soldier dies one death, a coward dies 1,000 times.
Oh boy.
What's the reason why? Like, what's the reason why we ain't nutted up and said, hey, you know what? Where's our freedom?
The dysfunction. I mean, you said it. The dysfunction. I mean, I look around, man. I see nothing but zombies walking around. The young kids, man, they doing what the hell they want to.
But you know what?
I don't know.
But
Sandog and I had this. Sandog and I had this exact same discussion, but we had it on the phone. Like, the reality is that the average, like, a lot of people in America think like the black underclass is radically different from the white upper class. I beg to differ. Like, first of all, there's a reason why the number one consumers of rap music are white kids. Because the exact same practices that white people use to colonize and to create a slave-based economy are the same kind of fucking moral values that these kids have when they running around the streets with sticks and blicks. It's the same value system. It's about money, cars, clothes, and hoes. It's the same shit. It's about power and money and wealth and demonstrating that you have it. Now, once you get to a certain point, you don't have to demonstrate you have it anymore. But there are ways that, you know, wealthy white people demonstrate their opulence without being, you know, so-called garish about it or being tacky about it. Okay? You know, but the reality is, you know, like, white folks in this country, man, most of their wealth is tied into real estate, their homes. And I've done shows about this, man. Black people were systematically excluded from housing policies that basically created the middle class for white folks. They were systematically prevented from being able to get that. But now we look at ourselves like, well, what did we do wrong? And then you got some niggas that got some paper. Now they want to talk to the other black folks like these niggas are lesser than me. I'm the king nigga. You rest of you niggas are plebeians or some shit like that.
I got a question.
And that's the issue that I got. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, most Americans anyway, even white folks, man, they live in check to check, bro. Check to check.
Yeah.
And if you don't get that check, everything can go down like a house of cards.
Man.
I mean, those are just the facts, man. So, look, I just want to, you know, I want to get back to the main subject. But, you know, I see a lot of plantation politics taking place in the United States, man. I see the oppression Olympics. All I'm saying is know what your position is. Now, there's many solutions. One, you can leave this motherfucker. You don't have to stay in America. You can leave. Nobody has to stay here, man. But we act like we have to be here, like we have to stay here. The question is, a lot of these guys really don't want to leave because they like it here. They like the position that they're in here.
Could I say something? I had a conversation with my mother today, and she said she noticed over the last, I say maybe a year and a half, my mind has been changing. Well, she don't understand. I've been becoming more red pill lately. With being realistic about what's going on in my surroundings. You know what I'm saying? With how our women treat us and how men treat each other. Uh, you know, throughout just America. Period. I haven't been out of the state, so I can't speak for other cultures. But and I'm telling my mom, like, I mean, can you see what it looks like in like 20 years for your grandson? And she can't. You know what I mean? Like that was gonna be my next question to you. What is it gonna take for people to come together? What is it gonna take for, I'm gonna say it like this, for the black woman to behave and for the black man to get in line with each other?
You know what, Blaze?
What is it
How
gonna
about
take? And
this?
I honestly feel like it's gonna be something catastrophic. It's gonna
Yeah,
take
but
something catastrophic.
I'll tell you this, right? Like when if will me and Gigi will finish the discussion, and that's why I told you that history is important, right? Because even in warfare, right? If you're before you make your plans in the situation paragraph, you have to understand the disposition of your you know what I'm saying of the environment, right? And so you would have essential elements of friendly information, right, for people who are positive to your position, and people who are essential elements of enemy information, right? Or people who are
Right.
against it is that you're looking to achieve. And so basically, what you'll see is as we continue on in this discussion, you don't say again. I'm going to highlight things in terms of where they came from, why the again why these things and why these things are animated because the problem that you're seeing in Black America, and not to drop the gun on my future points, is more so than quote unquote fighting for freedom. We're fighting to be a people, right?
Mm,
So to continue the discussion, right? So in plantation life, we work from sun up to sundown, which is can see to can't see, right? Many of
mm,
us, depending on the plantation that you were on, work 6 days a week. If you were if you were a field slave, you were given a set of clothing that lasted you a year. So imagine one t-shirt, one pair of jeans, a belt, and some shoes designed for you to last a year, right? So for the most part, we lived in huts that we built whenever we had free time to build them. Until then, we were more than likely out in the elements. We slept on the floor. There was a bad diet, and depending on the size of the plantation, some people actually went hungry or would have to fight the master's domestic pets, right, for food, right? And so there were people that took entertainment in that, watching the Black people fight the dog over the piece of pork, right? So this is where we're coming from. And a lot of the shacks that we built, some of them fit 10 people, or maybe even a little bit more. And so now when you get to the plantation, when I talk about us fighting to be a people, so now when you get to the plantation, right, for the slaves, you have the plantation owner, and then you have the overseer, right? And so many overseers, some of them were too harsh. And so what you would get is you would get the position of a driver. And so a driver was a slave who would beat the other slaves who, for the most part, acted in the position of an overseer, but he wouldn't go too far because these are commodities that belong to the master. And so
right.
basically, what do you get from being a driver, right? You get privileges and other things that the other slaves don't get, right? And so now you're going to be despised. Then from there, you get the domestic slaves, right? Which may have either been mixed race, a pretty girl that the master liked, or whatever the case might be. And then now, once you get to those domestic slaves, they have better food, better clothing. They're treated well compared to you and I, that are out in the field, right? And probably with the admixture, right? This is where you get your fine red bones from, right? That a lot of us, may go crazy over. And you know what's funny? Amongst those domestic slaves, it got to the point that even for the slaves themselves, it was a class system. So domestic slaves, if you were a domestic slave, Blaze Skywalker, you would say, when my daughter gets married, I want her to marry that other domestic slave from whatever plantation or whoever was working in the house. So
Right.
now, even with us on the plantation, you're now starting to develop a stratification of class amongst the slaves. And so what's funny, so now so when we talk about there's multiple Black Americas, right? So now people who are drivers, domestic slaves, and field Negroes, these people probably all want very different things, right? And they all have very different outlooks on the system. So if you're a house slave living well, man, you've had turkey, you drive the master stagecoach, you carry a pistol, you've been to Missouri, you've been to Kansas, you've been to Tennessee, you've been to Alabama, traveling with the master. Do you want slavery to end?
No.
No, right? But you know what I'm saying? But for Sandor, if I'm out there, you know what I'm saying, busting my ass to can't see to can't see, and I'm either flat out sleeping on a floor or on a patch of damn straw grass, right? I want it to come to an end. So even from the very beginning, what you would eventually call African Americans is you got initially what would be these forced tribes of Africans, and then once you start breeding them, now you have this hodge. So these African Americans are starting to develop a culture based upon the environment that they're living in. So, right. So what is culture? Culture is more or less the agreements that human beings make with themselves to deal with the environment that they're in. So now we're on this plantation, right? And so just like what Gigi said, you're talking about women and some of our dysfunction, right? So now most psychologists say what? It takes 21 days or a month to make a habit. So I'm going to bring up some things, right? And imagine living this for just about 300 years, right? And then you tell me, do you shake it? So now on the plantation, where you would have sex farms, we would have rape, forced mating, and arranged marriages, right? So now you're talking about, Black women not acting right, because at the end of the day, fam, there was never a Black patriarchy in the United States. So, for example, when you hear Black men in the manosphere make arguments about Latina women being submissive or women from Africa being submissive. So let's play this game, right? Bolivia could be messed up for all I know. Never seen Bolivia. I'm just throwing it out there. So Bolivia could be messed up. But the difference is, if you are a Bolivian woman, even though that country is poor and messed up, when you open your eyes and looked around, everybody who ran Bolivia was Bolivian. So when you looked up, your president is corrupt, but he's a Bolivian man. The police are corrupt, but they're Bolivian men. So there's that response. Now, if you're an African American woman, once you come out of the womb, right? Again, and shout out to 1662, which you get paternus, sequitur, venitrum, right? Which means what follows the womb. So basically what they were saying was whatever comes out of a Black woman's womb or a slave woman's womb is automatically a slave, right? And so now at that point, you're already devalued as a human being, right? And so women, in a sense, are a little bit more sensitive to that. So when that Black girl comes out, the head man in her life is who owns that plantation, right? And then the white overseer, if you have it. So when that girl came out of her mother, it wasn't Sandog and Blaze Skywalker running the plantation. It was a completely different group of men with a different phenotype, different culture, and everything else. And so this is where now you're at a disadvantage, because again, the woman who's a field slave wants the life of the slave that's in the house. And the slave woman that's in the house wants the life of the white mistress, right? And so, like you said, so again, it's this insane domino effect of things, right? And then
That's
how
deep.
men behave. So what happened was the stockmen. What used to happen, Blaze, was that what the white men would do is that they would test the men, right? So you're talking about boys, starting with boys of 15 years old. They would take the men and measure the sizes of their penises, right? And their strength and their height and the weight before they breed it, because the master wanted slaves that could work, right? And so guess what happened to the guy? So if your dick wasn't big enough, you know what happened? You got castrated and got put back to work. So now this is a beginning of how black men would form their identity around their dicks. Right?
Damn.
This is where the culture comes from. I got all the hoes, huh? You punk ass, pussy ass nigga. Again, this is what it is. So a lot of this stuff didn't come from anywhere.
It's
And
still
so what
going on.
happens is that you're going to have to identify a problem in order to solve it, right? And so now you get into, you're talking about propaganda, right? And then this is a discussion that I'll save for the second Great Awakening. So now, you're getting the rest of the population of America to accept this stuff because God said it was so, right? And so now, because God said it so, and this is where black people belong. This is how people began to accept many things, right? So when you look at what's happening overseas in the Middle East, right? A lot of people are making acceptance or denials based upon where they stand religiously, right? As opposed to, secularly, or looking at it from a different lens, right? And again, during that time, right, a slave, the amount of slaves that were in the States were worth $4 billion, right? This is about 1860. Gold and silver in America total valued at 228 million, and the land was at 1.92 billion. So now you're looking at why you're being treated the way that you're being treated, because it was profitable for you to be there. It makes money for you being the way that you are. So now fast forward to I'm some record executive, right? So now again, America is comfortable seeing you in a particular way. So you and I, and Gigi could probably outline this better than you and I could. Me and you could wake up tomorrow and say, you know what? We're going to be the next Outcast / Tribe Called Quest. And that record producer will say, that's not what sells, right? You're going to be the new South Central and MC8 or Mac 10. Right,
yeah,
and that's something, and you're going to be fumbled into that, and that's something that's going to be dictated into you. Now, again, in terms of how we function in our culture, right? So breeding was encouraged, right? You know what they would? So now I talked about 15-year-old black boys being turned into breeding bulls, right? So they would take young girls as early as the age of 13, right? As early as the age of 13 and start them breeding. And then they would say, hey, look, if you could give me 4 to 5 kids by the time you're 20, I'll set you free. And now fast forward that to the welfare queen and see the correlation.
Oh yeah, it's
right?
going down.
So at the end of the day, man, look.
Yeah.
We know that there was a history that took place. And now we're saying, okay, fuck the history. What do we do now? Okay? Like some people say, okay, invest your money. Okay? Buy this, buy that. Like right now you got Reinhardt, like fuck it, just buy stocks and bonds. Individual matriculation through the market. But like the reality of the situation is, man, name for me one group of people on the planet Earth throughout all history who've been able to overcome the condition of slavery and transcend into ascendancy in that particular culture or society. Which one?
Nobody.
Well, I mean, unless they revolted and overthrew it.
Oh, Haiti.
Well, like that's the most successful slave revolution, or you know, the most successful slave revolt in history.
They being punished for it right now.
Yeah, of course they're being punished for it, but like the reality is, white people are not going to give up power through moral persuasion. They don't like this shit has already been stated, man. They're not going to let you into their fucking clan. You're not part of their clan, bro. They're not going to allow you in. Why would they allow you in? Because you're just talking to them and telling them how fucking wrong it is? They're not going to move with that. Now, like, the Jews of Egypt did what? And this is important. Either you revolt or you move the fuck away. You get out of there. That's the only way. Or you create a religion with some charismatic leader who basically resets the culture. But we're not even, like, in terms of leaving, Negroes don't want to leave. I mean, like, that's not an option for a lot of black people, man, male or female. Now, some are leaving, but I mean, hey, either you're gonna have to fight them with force, and a lot of black folks don't want to do that at all because they see it as improbable. It's impossible to defend yourself against these people. It's like they're gods or some shit.
And let me give you an example of that yesterday, right? A woman handed me something at my job yesterday. I'm at my job now, so I'm trying to keep it down, but ain't nobody working near me, so I'm good right now. She handed me something that I needed, like a wrench, a crescent wrench, a number of stuff. I said, thank you, ma'am. She blew the fuck up on me, man. She blew up on me like she was a man and said, hold on, man, don't call me no damn ma'am. You call me sir. You know what I said? Nothing. Nothing. So
she asked to be called sir. But like at the end of the day.
She demanded. She said, no, you call me sir. She said my pronouns is him and they. And I didn't say nothing because I don't, you know, people was around us. I can't, you know, I had to control everything that tells me that I'm a man. I had to control it, not to, you know, go off. She over there somewhere. Oh yeah, she meant it too.
Hey, but you know, that's like Sand Dog and I had a conversation about this. You know, and I've had a conversation with many people about this. Like, at the current moment, recognition and inclusion is the order of the day. I mean, even if it's inclusion by pulling yourself up, it's still inclusion in the system. It's not dismantling a system that you know is hostile to you and the people that look like you. But like, people don't give a fuck about this. They like, well, I just want to save myself. Until the time rolls around when them people come and they chin check them as well. Like, it wasn't as if, and this is why we got to go through these steps in history, because it was never the case that black people just sat back and said, we're not devising a plan to improve ourselves. I mean, of course you're going to get some people who are so thoroughly acclimated to the system that they can't see their way out of it. But there's always been renegades in the black community. There always has been. Now, the question is whether or not getting rich within this system is going to be something that every black person can actually do. Like, all we got to do is just be crafty and start thinking business-mindedness, you know, in a business-minded way, and then all of a sudden we'll overcome racial hostility.
It's being promoted to young kids. My son's 8 is being promoted to young teenagers to be business people, and they think they can become business owners early. My son don't even want to work. I had to put him out because he said he don't want to work a 9 to 5.
I mean, there's nothing wrong.
Got a skill.
Now, there's nothing wrong with a kid. Like, you can start a business. There's nothing wrong with starting a business. That's not what I'm saying. Okay? I would encourage a young person, especially a young person, to start a business because the risk associated with starting one are minimal for them. Like the younger you are, the easier it is for you to rebound from failure financially. But you take somebody, not to speak derisively about you, but if you're 40 or 50 years old, those kind of risks can be catastrophic.
I agree.
And not to say that they shouldn't take them. I mean, like if you're not risk averse, take the risk. Because if there's nothing ventured, nothing gained. But I mean, at the end of the day, you still can't buy your way into freedom. You can't buy your way into freedom as a collective. It's just not going to happen. Like these people, like who runs the military industrial complex in the United States? It's white dudes, man. And they don't run it because they have like this overwhelming moral virtue. They run it because they're fucking scandalous. They don't give a fuck. And they're willing to do anything they can to remain in power. The only thing we want is some fucking pussy. We want our women to act right. Oh, why they ain't acting right? Oh, women ain't acting right. Oh, they don't act right. They don't respect us. Like, I mean, how long can you have the same conversation about this shit? Like, at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, the main problem with it, I can see that we can talk about it or discuss it as is there's a culture of obsequiousness that's pervasive that can't be resisted against if there's no education and there's no radical revolutionaries who actually want to exist outside of the scope and the frame of the system as it now exists and can't imagine a future without being a white helot. I mean, a black helot in a white person's world. Like, if you can't even see your futurity, I mean, there are disciplines called Afrofuturism. We don't even see it. If you can't see yourself outside of the context,
that last week.
We can't even see ourselves existing outside of the context of white culture and society. We can't even imagine it. Now, is that my fault? I'm just speaking the facts. There are several ways for people to get past this if they want to. Like I said, you can migrate out of here. You can fight. It might lead to revolutionary suicide, but shit. The white men who fought, black men fought in white people's revolutionary wars, bro. And in their internal wars. On both sides.
Yeah, they was ready to die when they went to the Capitol, like Buddy said in January. Last year?
You talking about January 6th? Like,
yeah.
Look, I don't know how, white people are always going to vie for power any way they can, man. And the question is, why don't people who look like us do so? Now you got on, like, I'm looking at your your shirt on your icon, your avatar. Right. It's like you study the Kemetic knowledge, like you've been studying the Afrocentric literature or whatever,
Yes, sir.
And so I've read Browder, Diop, Theophilo, Benga, Sertima, all them guys, man.
Okay.
But golly, man, like they've been talking about this forever. They've been talking about intellectual warfare, Jacob Carruthers. I mean, they've been discussing this for like decades. Like, how do we reshape and restructure the black mind so that it thinks differently about its experience? And, that's one way of changing attitudes so that you can then change practices and habits. But then you got, different ideologies even within the Afrocentric framework. But the point is, the reason we going through history is because, first of all, we act like this is ancient. Like, this was like millennia ago. And that there aren't reverberations and, like institutional spillover from one decade or one age to the other. This is not like remote history. This is not like we're talking about the Greeks, ancient Greeks. We're talking about something that happened like the black folk. My mother was born during segregation, bro, where it was legal to have different water fountains and different housing and different, spaces in the public. But now our very being is predicated upon the hope of integrating with white people that we know don't love us. And know that they have no desire to really include us in their system. It's at least not as principal players. Now you got tokens, but like the reality is, come on, man. Like either you gonna leave, either you gonna war, or either you gonna keep your head down and do what the Jews did in Germany. But anytime you got a dominant group that decides, and they can do it any moment they desire, there doesn't have to be a reason. If you leave yourself weak, and this is just a historical case example. I mean, the Jews were in Germany balling out of control, just like you could say the Asians are in America. And guess what ended up happening to them?
Man, they got their ass beat.
It's called the Holocaust. Shit.
Yeah, they started the Germans started getting jealous of them being on TV and bringing that gay shit over there and they started to rise up on them.
They were bankers. They were legal scholars. They were part of the intelligentsia of Germany.
Yeah.
Okay, and they had wealth. And guess what ended up happening to them? Germany was like, this shit is for us. We're going to take it from you. So unless you have the ability to resist against it, that's like you being like somebody bullied in school. If you don't fight the bully's going to keep whipping your ass, bro.
And I was bullied yesterday, and I was scared to say anything because I didn't want to get fired, bro, because I got a boss. You see what I'm saying? You ain't got to be in jail to be doing time, man.
Bro, you ain't got to tell me. I know that firsthand because I done been to jail. No, let me rephrase. I've been to prison. So, the reality is, man, like your existence in this place, this is a precarious place for a black person to be, man. It is. Now, we can deny that and lie about it, but the empirical facts are what they are. Like you got, look, Tamir Rice, man. Like you could say that something like George Floyd was a crackhead that was out here wilding out and he should have got his ass killed because he was resisting. But what about a fucking Tamir Rice, man? What about a kid that hasn't even reached puberty? What about a kid that ain't even reached puberty? He playing with a toy gun and he gets fucking murked in the street because some white boys say he got a gun. But then you got these white motherfuckers killing, mass murdering motherfuckers, and they get taken in no problem. But we won't even see it's a problem because, niggas and flies I despise. The more I see niggas, the more I like flies. That's like Moses, when even in the literature in the Bible, which is, mythical to me, but the whole point is, even Moses saw the Egyptians fucking with one of his kind. And what did Moses do?
He stepped in on that ass.
He murked the Egyptians. He murked them. I mean, it is what it is. So, I mean, I can't, we can, there are solutions. The question is whether you actually want to fucking take on the consequences for what the solution calls for. Now, I mean, it's you can do one. I say it's several solutions. 1, leave. 2, fight. 3, shut the fuck up, stop complaining, and just go for yourself. Just do what's best for you. Now, in terms of me telling young men, like in my viewpoint, and I'm just gonna say this, right? In terms of the manosphere, and a lot of things that the young guys complain about. If you ain't got no kids, and if you ain't got no case pending because of some bullshit that you got engaged in with a woman, what the fuck are you complaining about? You dodged the bullet.
Yep.
You dodged the fucking bullet. You are among the elect. Consider yourself blessed and highly favored. You are among the elect.
If you ain't been screwed over in divorce or in family court, it's just the game. That's just
or criminal court.
Correct. Yeah.
You are not subject to the rigors of the system. Now, what you can say is that you have an idea of family life that you romantically buy in. All right, peace out. Peace out, bro.
I want to let y'all know, but man, I appreciate y'all, man. I'm going to let y'all cook, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man. All right, Double G. And
peace out, my brother, man. Be good, man. I'll holler at you on the next time. But let me do some housekeeping, man. I want to give a shout out to 7Q Pit, man. Appreciate your donation, brother. Appreciate that, man. And thank you for being a member, man, of the Green Gorilla so-called enterprise, which many hate. But my viewpoint on that is, if you don't like it, man, just don't consume it. Like this is some simple shit. You know what I'm saying? If you don't like it, don't consume it. Shout out to Rasheed Barnes. He says perfect answer for Sandog. He was, the question that was posed by the brother who just came on here. Okay. So like the reality is, if you are a young man and you don't have a case, you don't have children, whether it's a family court case, a criminal case, you are golden. You don't have a problem. You don't have an issue. What is your issue? Because you can do anything you want to do. There's nothing tethering you to anyone. That's the optimal position to be in. But I just look at like the predominant topic of interest amongst black folks on YouTube and social media is relationships.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Like I'm like it's like the shit to do. Like everybody's talking about relationships. Relationship. If you 20 years old, 24, 25 years old, and you don't have a kid, and you don't have a fucking, like something that tethers you to this chick, what the fuck is the problem? I'm just saying, like, what's the issue?
I don't know. Look.
Like, if you can't score with a chick, that sounds like a problem in personal development to me, because I know ugly ass niggas get pussy, bruh. Like, I'm just being honest, with some badass chicks.
Nice.
I'm just keeping it 100.
Yeah.
I'm being absolutely honest. All you got to do is put some effort and energy into it and look and worry about how you appear. Cockiness is the thing that gets you some pussy. I hate to say it, and doing something to your physique, except pushing your thumbs across the joystick. I mean, I like video games too, but at the end of the day, man, like, come on. What's at the end of the day, bro?
But
that's a personal issue, man.
Yeah, but
it's not a political issue. It has nothing to do with politics, man. Whether or not you have access to the type of women you like.
Yeah.
Stop looking to find meaning, and like your life is going to come together only if there's that woman in it. Because they definitely are not thinking about you in relation to them having meaning in their lives. How many times they got to tell you? I'm trying to get my education. I'm trying to get my career going. I'm trying to get X, Y, and Z started. But then you got all these guys, all they want is a shot of pussy and some validation through that. No disrespect to the ladies out here. I mean, women ain't all that bad when you think about it. But, I mean, for crying out loud.
Did you say for crying out loud?
I mean, for crying out loud, bro. Like, it's pussy talk. They ain't acting like this. They don't want to act like that. They don't want to do this. They don't do this. They don't do that. Like, it's more of a problem when you got somebody in your life, man, that ain't on the same page with you, bro. Now, it's hard to get families on the same page. That's blood related. Especially among black folks. I'm talking about fathers and sons and mothers and daughters who ain't on the same page. But now you got to carve out a romantic life with somebody and be in perfect concert with whatever that person is on all throughout your entirety of your life. And if not, then the whole world crushes and goes, it's destroyed.
Yeah.
Why are black men thinking like this? Now, I'm not saying that having a family is not a good thing. I mean, it is. Yeah, but damn.
But it goes back to what I just mentioned, right? Again, on that plantation, that's one of the rare few things that they had to define their manhood, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. Again, you get up there, people, you got the size of your penis measured and all of that, and that determines if you get to reproduce, right? This is what I'm saying. A lot of this stuff, a lot of what we went through is what animates this activity. So you have to remember, especially with the West, right? Because now in the West, during this period of time, you're getting to the idea of marriage being something more about romance and negative freedom than it is family obligation, right? So now you're starting at this point in American history, people are starting to get, you're starting to get to somewhat of what we call the Disneyfication, of relationships, right? As opposed to, in other societies, marriage is seen as an obligatory duty for your family, for your tribe or clan, right? And this is what I was talking about in terms of American culture and in the far extreme of individualism.
Well, this is something I want to address though, because Reinhardt, he is bringing up a good point. Because people want kids. They want children. Okay? Well, and it's natural to want children and to have a family. But if the conditions don't obtain that are conducive to the institution of marriage and family life, then you're not going to have it. And unfortunately, you exist in a society that's not conducive to the development and the thriving of family life. It's not. And you don't exist in a culture that values marriage and family life. They value what the capitalist system tells them they should value, which is come work for a corporation. Work for me. Yeah. Come work for me. Come work for me. And who would want to engage in a practice that's exploitative, where, it's like, I don't have anything to offer you, but you got to have everything. You got to have all your I's dotted and all your T's crossed. You got to be the top of the top echelon of niggas to get my number or to get my Instagram or to get my socials and to fuck with me. You got to pay. It's like, what? That's not how marriage is traditionally even. It's not how it's even traditionally conceived. In most cultures, there's romance here and there, but this, like you said, the Disneyfication of all of this is, and men's buying into it, to me, is the thing that's odd. Because typically men don't tend to be that emotional and shit. But it's like, god damn. Like I lies it, like, you know, like I feel like I'm listening to a Drew Hill song. Without you, girl, my life is incomplete. Like I'm just hearing that shit. Do you believe in love and all the promise that it gives? I'm like, what the fuck, man? I feel like I'm listening to the old school, you know, the fucking, what they call that shit? You know, the midnight something, you know what I'm saying? The midnight goodies or some shit. Like the soul classics or something, you know, like Sugar Pie Honey Bun. This is not what sustains the culture.
Yeah.
It never has been. Now I ain't saying that, you know, you shouldn't if you find somebody, but these women will test you to determine your fitness for a relationship. You got to do the same with them, bro. And we don't do it. The only thing we want is somebody to look good. And that's the qualifications right there. Don't matter the attitude, the disposition, none of that.
Correct.
And while you worried about that, and you tripping off that shit, you ain't thinking about nothing beyond that. I mean, you know, cats think about money here and there or whatever the case may be. They think about their careers and shit like that. But if you do that in service of a relationship, then you got it backwards. The black male problem is it's really simple. The solution is don't fucking come in somebody, bruh. If that ain't your wife, bruh. Black male problem averted. Don't nut raw. Don't do the old dirty bastard. Don't do it. Situation solved. Problem removed. It's just that simple. Like this is not brain science, rocket science or brain surgery. If you don't want to have a problem with somebody that you fuck with during the oxytocin stage, which is what it is, like you get into a new relationship, everything is good. But that shit wears off and then you got to deal with the real individual. So after the doe eyes and all the bedroom shit is over with, who are you really dealing with? Is that person a friend to you? Can y'all get along? Do you have the ability to resolve conflict? If not, don't nut in her, man. Don't do it. Like it's just simple. Now there is a natural drive for human beings to reproduce. We are members of the we are animals. We have biological urges. But damn, don't let your biological urge fuck up your social positioning altogether to where you starting off behind. And that's how a lot of black men start behind.
Correct.
You starting behind with 2 or 3 kids to women that have no loyalty to you. And you know they don't have loyalty to you. So what's like, learn from other people's mistakes. Don't nut in her raw. Like a lot of guys have already avoided these problems. But it's like seeing something that they don't have and they desire it more.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck all this. Like, find something you love to do and develop that. Fuck all this whole, I need to have a love. Like that's the shit right there that'll get you jammed up. Thinking that that's a necessary component or a piece of your life. And if you do, like, there are so many solutions and alternatives that brothers are coming up with. If you don't like the culture in the United States and the way these women treat you, go elsewhere. Find a woman from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And take her somewhere else. Migrate. Get the fuck out of here. And go start a life somewhere else. You don't have to stay here.
Yeah.
Now, for some of us, it's too late. We wish we would have had the information. But we did have it though. That's the facts. We did. We just ignored it. Some of us did. I've been told, why you dealing with her, man? She ain't no prize for real. Mm-hmm. She look good and all that kind of shit, but like, bruh, you got places to go and you got shit to do.
Facts.
You got places to go, you got shit to do. And that's a distraction. Because most of the bullshit that couples argue about is petty as fuck. You didn't call me today. You didn't leave the emoji on the phone. You didn't consider me. I'm going to hold like this grudge and all this stupid shit. Who wants to deal with that shit? And now cats is ready to sign up for it. They mad they can't sign up for it.
Well, because young girls are not the only people with Disney fantasies.
Man, dudes is more romantic than these women are, bro. Real talk. I hate to say that. Huh. And there's not, I mean, you know, like, you, the other day, because you play as the Omega Man, and you probably, you know, had access to sex just on the account of being the bros. You know what I'm saying? And being around a bunch of dudes who act a certain kind of way and have a certain set of reputations.
Fact. Correct.
You know what I'm saying? They part of this group. So they get access to sex. They cool. They part of the, you know, the elite crowd in college or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, I knew dudes who wasn't in no frats and was fucking everybody. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's just the truth.
True.
But I mean, at the end of the day, what does that really mean? You wasting energy on that shit. I mean, there's a drive for it, but damn, it's a drive for you to eat, but you ain't gotta eat Hostess. You ain't gotta eat motherfucking Fruit Loops with the marshmallows in it. I'm fucking with you right there, saying dog. You can eat any variety of healthy foods if you want, but you want the motherfucking the super extra large pizza with all the bacon and shit on it. That's what you want. Just my advice to young guys, man, take your time, develop yourself before you even consider being serious with a woman, man. And if you think that, you know, your manhood is going to be played out in the context of a relationship in this culture, bruh, man, you're asking for disappointment. You're begging to be disappointed.
With other cultures, man, because do you know what happens in the old world, in the world that I live in, when young men get married? Do you know what happens? Traditionally, when you marry that girl, guess what? She moves in the house with you because you're living with your family, right? So where we're at, like, kids just don't move out, right? So when you marry that girl, she's coming to live under your roof, but guess who's in there?
Mama and daddy.
So your wife will be under the careful supervision of your mother and maybe even your sisters as well, and then she will be groomed on how to function in that family.
Oh, that's oppression to these motherfuckers here. It's Sex in the City over here. This is what it is about. It's about that wet ass pussy going any and everywhere it desires.
So it's like I said, it's not like that. So, you know, now you're, you know, through westernization, you're having people who kind of, you know, say, hey, I want to live separate or whatever. But traditionally, like I said, traditionally speaking, fam, no, you come, you know, you get married, you know what I'm saying, and you move into your husband's house, and the women of his family will groom you into what it is to be a member of that family.
But here, you know, it's all about freedom. It's all about liberty. Which I don't have a problem with freedom to some extent, but like, what freedom do you gain just by being able to do whatever it is you want to do?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a certain, I think there's the foundations for liberty to some degree, but I mean, like, too much freedom is not a good thing. Like, I mean, freedom without discipline is a downfall. Put it that way. That's the better way to say it, to articulate it. Unfettered freedom with no discipline is recklessness and aimlessness. There's no focus.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Like, man, you got a bunch of grown ass children out here, man. It's grown ass children. Grown ass children.
But when you get into, but that's what I'm trying to say. So when you get into that liberty, but again, these, like you said, when you're talking about the plantation, man, this is how a lot of people got there. And then the problem is like I said, and that's why even for me, like in the space, like for recently, I'm like, we have to ease up. Like, like, so for example, when people like, throw around the term coon, and I'm like, yo, who are you talking about? Again, selling out what? Because again, from what I'm seeing out of history, is that for the most part, this was something that we've always wanted to be a part of, right? So again, it was a small handful of people who said that, you know what? I believe that we should kind of like have our own state or move on. Everybody else wanted, the attempt was, again, to be, like I said, to be a part of it. So when you hear slaves running away and stuff like that, again, they're going to the north. I don't, at least to my knowledge, right? Again, the stories of, outside of a few rebellions, the stories I hear of people, wanting to run away to Haiti or into another country, it's very few. And so again, so much everything, because what you're upset with, GG, is a part of plantation politics, right? And so again, who, what I'm saying, who's smashing, who ain't, who get to wear nice clothes, what I'm saying, who doesn't. And so because there's a desire or an appetite for this, to be successful in this system, so many of us fall into that trap.
Yeah, well, I ain't gonna say I have never fallen for it, but you get older and you get wiser. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, some of us, but I got 2 kids. It is what it is. One of them, the baby mama is deceased. God bless her soul. I guess. Not no disrespect to her, but I mean, it's like the other one's still living, but we ain't together. The kids are grown.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, at the end of the day, I did my so-called stately duty, but I still got like, other duties that, are involved with, actually caring about my progeny. But I mean, at the end of the day, these are grown ass women. They can do what the fuck they want to do. I can't tell them what they can and can't do. This is not motherfucking the UAE. This is the United States of America, where if you tell anybody anything they don't like, they gonna get the state involved. Because I mean, these are the facts. So you think black people didn't punish each other on the plantation by snitching on each other and shit?
Correct.
And pointing out the flaws of each other in the context of the plantation itself?
Yeah.
Or disparage each other, or attack each other, or try to destroy each other on the plantation.
Yeah. But exactly, and you'll say, and that's exactly. So even the way we fought to get out of the condition, where you're talking about escaping blackness, like I'm looking at some of the freedom suits, and what I want to do is I'll hold it for another discussion, right? Because we've been here a minute, but it's like I said. So even when you have people suing for freedom, right? So you would have once America expands and you have new territories. You're getting your new territory, so you would have slaves who be okay. Well, Once we went through St. Louis, the gateway of the West, and I went into the new territories, I should be free. And then you have other slaves suing based upon lineage or, even to your point, Indian tribal connections and everything else. So there was so much, in our quest for freedom, there was a lot that many people did in order to quote and unquote escape blackness. And so now when you look at the slave revolts on the plantation, right? Versus when you look at people that are having the freedom suits, right? So, you're looking at probably more than likely very different classes of black people, more than likely with different levels of education and everything else. So again, so for a certain type of black person who might be poor and illiterate and all of that stuff, man, again, your slave revolts, probably from the Dunbar Declaration or to the Pointe, what I'm saying, to the Pointe Corpe slave conspiracy in 1795, or even down to Denmark Vesey or Nat Turner, right, or John Brown, and those guys, down at the harbor, and those are all very, very, very different people, and it's something that's worth examining. So again, these were historical things that I was bringing up in order to push, like I said, in order to push the conversation. But when you look at when you look at people revolting from slavery and some of the people that were going to court to sue, you're looking at ultimately, you're looking at ultimately the different types of people that would more than likely come to define the 3 or 4 different Black Americas and now in which we live. And so that's why I was trying to say is that we have to be real careful now in terms of, at least from where Sandog is saying, so again, is that what we call a coon? Because a lot of people don't study history or know it. So when the brother that came up on the panel, he was talking about things from the micro, but not the macro, right? So from the micro, I could say, hey, Sandog is a badass dude. Put in your 2 quarters, right? Double Dragon, Mortal Kombat, whatever you want to call it. But like I said, but on the macro level, my circumstance is not, like I said, it's not that. So Sandog himself is not more powerful than the policies and the laws and the institutions that enforces these things, and also simultaneously creates the culture in which Sandog lives. I'm not more powerful than that. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
and that,
Yeah,
that
I would like to. I would like to think so, right? Because again, I've quote and unquote, we beaten the odds. What Kanye say? We wasn't supposed to make it past 25, right? Jokes on you. We still alive. So when we look at our condition, man, and what I'm looking at with plantation politics and everything else is a sad truth is that we did not come here, as many people believe, as one people, right, and ready to kick down the door and take action. And a lot of the problems that are happening in Black America now is more than likely that we're still fighting to be a people, to
yeah,
to be just that. So that's where the confusion and the infighting is amongst us. But sad and most unfortunately, many of us will gravitate towards vehicles where we feel we can get relief from blackness, relief from this condition.
yeah, man. I think we're gonna wrap it up on that. I didn't want to hold you for 2 hours, brother.
Yeah,
Uh, I'm sorry that I did so, but I mean, we got a little bit distracted by the brother's question. But I mean, he had a serious question, and it's important to sometimes deal with people who say, okay, we hear you, but like, what's the solution? I mean, the solutions are actually there. Is whether or not you're going to pick them.
correct.
Like, which one are you going to pick? Barring a charismatic dictator, you can't make any individual black person do anything.
Correct.
Like, how can I make a black person do anything?
Yeah, but what you got to remember is again, right? Like when you talk negative liberty, the power, like I said, the power of the individual. So, nobody can't tell my kids what to do. Mind your own damn business. Again, all of these things, right? So, and this is, and this is what's happening. This is what's happening in America, or maybe, like I said, or maybe the world at large. And so this is something. So for a lot of us, right? And so for me, the main reason why I'm laying this down is because from a military perspective and a sports perspective, and especially if the brother's still listening, but we let them talk and we let them vent. This particular approach is designed like football or warfare, right? You're looking at history to determine what your course of action is going to be in the future, right? So again, so these are the things we've done. This is where we turned out, and it's like you said, the solutions are there. It's just that do you want to pick them? So so even within the space, right? You have Dr. T.S.R. Johnson talking about blackmail politics and how the verbiage and everything now for it through the various discussions in our space is actually being formed, right? But to your point, at the end of the day, like I said, guys are going to guys are going to have to make the decision to pick that brand of politics or not, right? It's going to be completely up to them. So you have the solutions there, but do you want to follow him and do you want to see him through and see them through? And also, if that brother was a steward of African American history, what he would know is that collectively as a people, we have a bad habit of starting movements, letting those movements die, and then the same ideas come across decades later in a brand new organization, right? So, imagine if the U.S. Army did that, right? It'll have a cool idea, right? It'll run live for 5 years or 10 years and then die. And then before you know it, you have to jumpstart another army, right? Again, that's not going to work. So for African Americans, we're going to have to go into our history, everything from diet or fighting the civil rights, documenting, like I said, documenting our history and looking at what works and keep it going from there.
But do know this: in the history of mankind, there has been no resistance to the slave-based practice like the ones that the descendants of Africa have put up.
Yeah.
I mean, in Rome, you didn't see it. In Greece, you didn't see it. In even Africa itself, you didn't see it.
Yeah.
These are the facts. Like, I mean, I dare you to demonstrate otherwise. Like, African Americans, Haitian Americans, Jamaican Americans, however you want to term it, man, they have resisted against slavery the most, more than any other ethnic population, demographic than anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the facts. And the most successful slave revolt in history is the Haitian Revolution. It just is.
Correct.
It's just
But
there is no disputing this. There's no getting over this.
yeah.
So
But
the spirit of revolution has existed amongst us. The question is like, what kind of forces exist that try to dissipate or to try to attenuate that kind of radical decolonial way of thinking and that kind of politics.
correct. And that's why we're talking, and like I said, and that's why we're talking from the macro and not the micro, because at first I wanted to approach this series through individual people who did extraordinary things in this circumstance. And as I was putting that data together, it paints, like I said, again, it paints the wrong picture. So I'm not. So at the end of the day, like I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to reinforce, pessimism. I'm talking about, I'm just talking about micro. I'm just talking about versus micro versus the macro. But like I said, in order for us to make moves, for the brother there, and that's why I wanted to explain certain things to him historically, we're going to have to choose to make those moves. So when John F. Kennedy gave his speech, right, he was talking about the American frontier. And what did he say? Our pioneers sacrificed their safety, their comfort, and even their lives. And so for black men, it's not necessarily a fear of sacrificing your life. Our biggest hurdle is the safety and comfort part.
Man, cats don't, we soft, man. I hate to say it, like, it's a fact. I'm not trying to be ignorant, I'm not trying to be deprecatory. It's just like,
so
it's like we don't have a heart to fight, man. What we're fighting for is love.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm listening to a fucking Brian McKnight song, nigga, on repeat, bro. Love, 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 crazy love. I'm like, bro, like, we know love exists out there, but god damn. I'm just,
Yeah, but that
Jesus
again,
Christ,
but
bro.
that would be the thing, right? So again, with kind of like back to plantation politics, right? Again, the woman would be the one that could approach the big house, or that for the most part in the beginnings worked in the big house. So again, it could approach the big man and discuss and make decisions, and like I said, and make decisions on your behalf. And so again, when you talk about this being a gynocracy, right? How do women socialize? Again, they socialize through appreciating each other based on intrinsic value, and that's not how the world of men works. Again, you put me and you in third grade where Sandog is skinny and uncoordinated, and you're putting together your team or your hunting party, right, for the football game we're about to play. And guess what? You're going to pick me last. And the reason why you're going to pick me last is because I am least likely to help you win. Right? So when when we were young and we all stuck our foot in the pile to pick and choose who was going to be, on what team, the strongest of the young men picked from each other. Why? Because they wanted to go and win.
Yeah, I get it, man. I understand. We'll put it this way. Like I said before, it might sound fucked up, man, but like the military, like, black folks don't really have like a militaristic experience outside of the context of what they consider to be Pookie culture or formalized, induction into the military itself, right? Which, doesn't really actually serve in your interest. It serves in the geopolitical interest of the United States. I mean, that's just the way it is. So,
yeah.
We have no, that's something that used to be essential to male life from culture to culture. And it doesn't exist in this one. You got guys going out making money, and buying Gucci boots and shit, and thinking that that's masculine. This is what it is. Like, that's, this, even that pimp shit is some girly shit. It's girl. Look how them cats peacock around and shit. It's girly.
You got a pair of white sunglasses, Gigi?
No, sir, man. No. But anyway, brother, yeah, I'm gonna make one more comment. Like, a lot of the men who are engaged in struggle against, their condition of oppression in the United States actually were trained in the military in the U.S. And they took their training and they utilized it in their own collective interest. It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? So now you don't really see a lot of that happening because of the promise of integration or whatever. But like I said, man, that's fools. I'm not saying that you should be antisocial and go about recklessly and stupidly, being confrontational with random people, man. That doesn't make sense. But what I am saying is, man, we don't have a mind state to we don't have a collective mind state. There is none. I mean, even the United States has a collective national spirit, you know, like a zeitgeist related to togetherness, related to it, right? We just don't have it. Our collectivity is centered around our pain and struggle. So, having said all that, bro, you know, I don't want to. We can get the conversation will keep drifting into the midnight, man. But I do want to. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Z, Corbett Goodwin, Victor, Donovan Wood, and yeah, appreciate those brothers, man, who hit me up on the Cash App. I appreciate you, brothers, man. So it is what it is, brethren, man. We're gonna come together the next time. What's your next subject of conversation, brother? So
the next one will be the second great awakening, right? So, you know, again, for and like I said, I'm talking in the macro, right? So for those of us who don't think that we haven't done anything about our situation, so like I said, so in what we talked about today, you know, again, you know, you have people that came, and again, these are called the freedom suits, right? Where people are suing for their freedom, and they're having slave revolts, right? And so, you know, again, you're having slave revolts, you know, and the Carolinas, you know, which are scaring people, you know, halfway to heaven, left and right. You know, the Haitian Revolution, again, that scared a lot of the power structure, and so, you know, you're having people, you know, push back. Like I said, they're pushing back against the circumstance, and then, you know, in the second great awakening, you know, you know, we'll discuss, you know, we'll discuss the topic of religion, where people feel that that has nothing to do, you know, with the black movement, but it pretty much, it has everything, or it's one of the things that has everything to do with the movement, because this is how we began to organize. You know, this is how we began to organize and kind of form our identity, in a sense, you know, away from the plantation politics, right? Because going to church on that Sunday or whatever day off you got, again, that it was damn near like going to the movies, right? It was a way to be put into another world. So especially if it was a church where, you know, the black man is preaching, the women are ushers, and all of this stuff and everything else, you know, it provided, you know, levels of escapism, you know, off the you know,
the harsh, you know, sharecropping, plantation, segregationist, black life.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man. Enjoy your stay, man. You know, as you know, you explore more and more what's going on here in America, man. I know you've been away for a while. Stay in contact with me, you know, on an individual level, man, and tell me about what's going on with you, bruh.
Yo, that, like I said, that's a done deal, man. And, you know what I'm saying? Yo, thanks for being with me, man. Thanks for inviting me, man. And thanks for the groove and the olive branch. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming through, man, and agreeing to do this. I think it's, you know, some people will see it as insignificant and meaningless, but you know, it is what it is. People have their opinions, man, and it is what it is. But thank you for coming, bro. I appreciate you, bro.
All right, for Rude Team.
Rude Dog. I will holler at y'all on the next one, man. We are out of here, man. So peace.